1 second.
Is Verizon working? Because my husband said he tried to tune in the last meeting.
It's probably on the SD. We've been putting, a couple people asking about that. We put a notice that we were going from SD to HD in November to December. So if I was cut us off on SD, we're only on HD now, 2126. We're live. That's probably why.
We should push that out.
We did.
We did?
Yeah, we put like a month on the channel. We were telling people, start watching 2126.
Okay.
But now we can't put it on because the SD's not, so we put it for a month on SD. Pardon?
I didn't even know it goes as high as 2126.
HD channels are all like in the 4 digits.
2126.
Not
Okay.
mine, not
Well,
Verizon.
then I will.
HD?
Oh, HD, right?
Yeah,
HD
HD
channels I don't know about.
Yeah, all your HD, you're probably still watching
They're
SD.
in there, they're just, yeah,
You're probably still watching SD.
I have absolutely no idea what
I
channel.
just hit C and it goes to HD, but I thought those were in the 800s. I don't know, I gotta figure it out.
Yeah, the HD channel is 2126.
I switched
on
to voice
YouTube
remote.
TV.
Yeah, YouTube is the way to go.
I just use my voice remote, so I have no idea what channel anything.
But yeah, we advertised it for a month.
I don't trust it, but I'm gonna try that.
Okay, I will make a note of it publicly as well.
Yes.
All
We'll
right,
put
good.
another thing on our social media as well.
Everybody good? We're good? Okay.
Recording in progress.
There you go.
Okay.
Greg, sorry. We have returned from our executive session and we have now started the public portion of our workshop meeting this evening. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First off this evening, I want to express our deepest condolences to Committeeman Lois and his family this evening as they are dealing with the loss of the family. Our thoughts and prayers are with you, Mark. Let me see. Next, we have our roll call again.
Mr. Choi?
Here.
Mrs. Ewald?
Here.
Mr. Lois is absent. Deputy Mayor Hamilton?
Here.
And Mayor Fleece.
Here. All right, I will open the hearing of citizens. If you're watching via Zoom, you may speak during the public comment session by following the Zoom instructions to raise your hand. Whether in person or online, when you are recognized to speak, please say your name, spell your last name, and give your street number. As a reminder, all public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Rather than use any of your time answering questions, we will wait until you finish speaking before responding. Each member of the public will be limited to 1 comment during the public comment period. Written comments submitted to the Township Clerk before 3 p.m. today will be read during the public comment sessions. Written comments are subject to the same guidelines as oral comments, and duplicative written comments may be summarized rather than read in full, according to the state guidelines issued by the New Jersey Division of Local Government Services. Also, I would like to make note that we are now on Verizon channel 2126. This is a change from what it was before, so please make note of that. Greg, do we have any written comments?
No, we do not.
Just to note, the agenda has to be up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is there anybody, I don't see anyone here. Is there anyone on Zoom?
We do not have any raised hands.
All right, then I will close the public comment session and move on to the mayoral appointments. I'd like to announce the following appointments that I forgot to announce last week. Nick Nicolopoulos and Michael Nyvard have been reappointed to the planning board. Kara Fieser, Amy Mason, Lisa McHugh, and Sally O'Neill have been reappointed to the Environmental Commission, and Celeste Fondaco will be appointed as an alternate on the Environmental Commission. Also, I believe, just for your guys' sake, Doug Pitney and Catherine Fowler have both applied to be appointed onto the Board of Health. I would like to appoint them, but that we need a resolution for that, so that could be on next meeting's agenda. We do have some more openings on the Board of Health. If anybody knows of people interested in joining the Board of Health, please send them to Greg or myself.
Yeah, we have 2 openings there.
Yes. All right, then we can go on to reports. Administration.
Thank you. Actually, if I may, I will go to our two department heads over here
Perfect.
so we can let them go. We'll start off alphabetically, engineering, and I think that should be a simple quick one. So, Mr. Rushke, if you could please come up.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy
Yeah,
New Year.
thank you.
To you. So John's report was included. I think if you just touch on one or two highlights, John, if there's anything that needs their action or input, and then we'll go into the REA, the FEA RA proposal after that.
Okay. What's worth noting, I guess, it is, we did get another grant with the Morris County for the trails, so that's good news. We can continue that project. I don't wanna jinx it, but it does seem like the Safe Route to Schools Lafayette project may in fact be authorized to bid shortly, so at least that's what the DOT tells me within a month. So, I am fishing very hard for that because I do wanna go out to bid and actually construct that during the summer, when school's out. So, but we shall see. That's the Safe Route to Schools, it's just, getting through the bureaucracy of all the approvals that you need with the DOT is just very difficult, so, but we are hopeful that that's going to happen. The two roof projects, the contractors have not set, the weather turned and it's unlikely they're going to start that work until the spring. So that's, they kind of fell off the earth. They still have some shop drawing review submittals to give me that they're minor. They're very close to completing that process and getting the material ordered, but they still have some lingering issues to resolve on both of them. But hopefully when the weather breaks in the spring, we can get that work done.
Good. Any questions on his report?
Just a quick question, on the Safe Routes to School, grant, the one that was reviewed, you had a hearing, or I don't know what you call it, in December?
Correct.
Public hearing?
Correct.
Any participation, feedback?
Celeste did, she had some questions, and we need to, follow up. There wasn't many comments. There's like 3 people that commented. I think all their concerns and such were addressed. I think once we go into that is moving into final design, so as part of that process, we take those comments and we make sure that those concerns are addressed.
Okay, great, thank you.
If there's no other questions on his report, then we'll go to the item listed on here for action, and that is the proposal from FEA, Finale Environmental Associates, for remedial action. This predated me. The proposal also came in, I believe it was dated February 2022. That was the proposal that I think informed the discussions on the bond ordinance that the governing body approved in the beginning of last year, in the spring of last year, which included monies to carry out this proposal. And John, you want to talk about the UST?
Sure. This has been an ongoing project probably for it's been over 20 years. There was several underground storage tanks that were moved at the DPW yard. There was soil contamination that was remediated years ago. We excavated a massive hole and disposed of tons of soil. But we have had a lingering groundwater contamination at the site. And there is a plume. It's not a very large plume. It doesn't extend off the property. But we have residual contamination. It was primarily a gasoline tank that leaked. And we have MTBE, TBA, and the TPA, and benzene are other constituents that we've historically have found. We are starting to see the concentrations go down, but it is just an ongoing project. We have a couple of years ago, maybe even almost 10 years ago, one of the thoughts was, what would it cost just to make this go away? And we did look at different types of remediation, of just excavating the saturated soils where the groundwater is present. And we looked at chemical injection and other techniques, and it was hundreds of thousands of dollars, over 500, I believe it was. So the thought is that, the philosophy here is we're doing both natural attenuation and also we are discharging groundwater into the sanitary sewer system and treating some of the groundwater at our plants. So, we have, that's being done to a limited extent, but it is controlling the plume, making sure it's not migrating much further, and so we are doing that. So, there was a decision, 10 years ago that, and certainly should be, rediscussed, but the thought was that this is more of a cash management to let this remediate naturally versus spending that hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so, really we're spending the bare amount of money just to keep the site in compliance so we don't get, a notice of violation from the DEP and just, keep away those fines. So that's really what we're doing here, is we're doing the bare minimum just to stay in compliance and, and just monitor the groundwater, keep it, the various different tasks that they're doing. We do have to periodically revisit to make sure that there's no, the DEP requires to confirm that there's no new portable wells in the area and there's nothing any other thing that's being impacted by it, and that's what they do. And so we haven't, it's been about 2 or 3 years since we've did additional work, and we're just at that point where we do need to do additional monitoring, additional reporting to the DEP to avoid that notice of violation coming.
When did they leak? What year?
Oh, they leaked, it may have been 30 years ago that they leaked.
So pre-87?
Yeah, I think Carl Woodward did look into insurance, and he explored that, years ago.
And?
I don't recall. It's been
So
over 20 years.
in talking to him to the Rolling Knolls, he said he had really good insurance back from the absolute pollution exclusion in '87 all the way back. So we could always put.
Yeah, I would say if you want to touch base with Carl, and I know that Carl, did look into the insurance and nothing, I don't recall anything coming out of that, but the claim may have been submitted, but it just wasn't.
So we have that proposal, and the intent was to carry, contract with the company FEA to do the work. Peter, are you suggesting maybe we should hold off?
You're gonna have to do that. The DEP had an open claim with them probably 30 years ago, 20,
Yeah,
30.
yeah,
So
yeah.
a lot of towns have done that. They didn't do what they were supposed to do back then. So in the last year or two, the DEP's been sending notices out to a lot of municipalities that they're potentially in violation.
Have we received any DEP notices or anything, or we're just being proactive?
Not yet, but I wouldn't be surprised it's not coming. We've it's probably, this report probably should have been done 6 months ago. So we've not that we're dragging our feet, but we're just trying to stay off the radar, avoid having that notice of violation.
Yeah, I think the delay, if there was an argument, we got the proposal in February, we put the money in place through the bond ordinance in 2022, and, the intent was to actually carry it out in the last year, but by the time it got to my attention, I knew what, figuring out what was been going on, we slated it for this meeting. So if there's no objections, then we'll put a resolution on to enter into this contract with FEA for the proposal.
Just to make sure I'm clear, in terms of, when we talk about the DEP notices going out, potential fine, we're talking about that we haven't met some administrative requirements or oversight requirements or testing requirements as opposed to impact from those toxins.
No, it's impacted because they're pulling water out, but it's at a lower level.
Yeah. No, we're not delinquent in not properly managing the contamination.
That's what I'm trying to
Yeah, it's more of the
Yeah.
reporting.
This is more administrative. We're not that we're delinquent, but we may be delinquent very soon of not administratively keeping up with the reporting that's required.
Well, my worry when we say things like, we're doing as little as we possibly can, but we're saying from that we're meeting the minimum standards in terms of
Correct.
what's expected and
Yes,
keeping
we're
We're
it-
still in good graces.
Yeah, well,
But we're not,
almost.
I
we're
assume it-
managing the toxins, they're not flowing where they
no,
don't need to be flowing.
operationally,
they're-
when you
Yeah.
deal with environmental, you can be very aggressive, like what you were saying, is you can deal with either biologics, injections, massive cleanups, or you can deal with the alternative, which is what we're dealing with why is there an echo? Natural attenuation, and what he described as with the treatment at the plant, and, things that will still resolve the issue, but how aggressively or quickly, is really the discretion that we have, and that's what we're taking. We're kind of taking the
The
sort of
once-
slower and
once-
cheaper
Once
approach.
there's a discharge, the DEP has to be noticed. It sounds like the town noticed the DEP. There were guidelines that had to be followed. They've changed probably since.
Yeah, we went through
the
very
intro-
different regulations
Yeah,
than
but
what
the
we were doing
DEP
30 years ago versus
Is,
today.
you know, will issue guidelines that you have to do this testing. Was there delineation done?
Yeah, we've done a whole remedial
So
investigation.
based upon that,
so-
they would have given a report to the DEP. The DEP would have said, okay, it's not high level, so you can do natural attenuation.
Say, we can't unilaterally say, well, I'm just gonna do natural attenuation of this.
No, the DEP already
plutonium
reviewed
dump I've
this.
got under it, you know?
If we were impacting, you know, if there were
Near
impacts
wetland,
associated.
And that's a.
You know, obviously, it must not be a very big plume.
Yeah, if we were impacting or having some negative impact to the environment or public health, DEP would be all over this. This would be a red flag and, you know, they would be, you know, they wouldn't, you know, we would be they'd be far more aggressive in making sure that everything is done and doing. But they, you know, we've already went through a number of, you know, phases of investigation of delineating the plume, multiple groundwater wells and, you know, doing the whole analysis demonstrating that through various, you know, sampling to demonstrate that natural attenuation is a feasible option and it is contained to this location. And so we've done quite a bit. This is more of just upkeeping to make sure the DEP wants these reports to make sure that nothing has changed. It's really that's what we're
And going to a closeout, because if the levels have fallen below, you know, a certain level, you can close it out and then you'll have to cap the wells and you're done.
Yeah.
Well, that's my question. So if our play is just to let it attenuate, he's got an REO here. I mean, when can we get the REO? Is this in the lifetime of the agreement with this vendor, or?
You know, I mean, the projection is going to be years. It's
Yeah.
another 10+ years before this is actually
Before it's
signed.
within that,
Yeah,
under the threshold?
Yeah, because the constituents, you know, benzene, there's certain constituents will degrade more quickly than others, but the MTB and MTBE is just very slow to go out. And so this is something that'll go on for another
That
probably
was
another
taken in the
10 years.
90s, 92, I think.
Yes, yeah.
So you can expect,
So what's the REO for then? I don't get it.
Well,
He's not able to close this out, and
he's not be able to close, then you'll go into monitoring, you know, he's closing out the remedial action that was proposed, but then you'll still have continuous monitoring that's associated with making sure, and again, it's those key things that the DEP wants to see, such as, are there any new receptors that need to be concerned or modified, you know, those are the type of things. So it's more of a just compliance, oversight and review.
But shouldn't we have already had that? This is a known issue, as I think I heard you say, about 30-some-odd years. We've
Yeah.
got, I'm sure, voluminous data
Yeah.
on these wells.
Yeah.
Whatever vendors we had hired before, part of their scope of work, I presume, was to have come up with an action plan. And shouldn't we just be following that versus now
No.
hiring someone to put together the action plan?
It's not just the action plan that they're doing, they're actually showing that, you know, and again, this is, you're right, this has been going on for years, and the contamination there, it's not going away, it's present, so it's not like, you know, he can close his case out and leave the contamination and just walk away and not monitor it all, you know, that's what we're talking, so we're at.
it's mostly monitoring and
It's mostly
constantly-
monitoring associated with that, and the,
And we'll probably have agreements like this for a number of years, having to revisit.
yeah, it's not
something
gonna be
like
every
this.
single year that we have to
Yeah.
do something. We're just at a mile point where he does have to close out, you know, what was submitted, you know, we submitted the report and, for the natural attenuation, but we haven't, you know, did the RO where he's actually closing it out and saying we're not in a monitoring period. So we've been dragging this out, and so, you know, we have not been, you know, aggressive. If we want to spend more money, we can do more and try to, you know, close out this phase quicker, but, you know, we've been looking at this just at a very slow pace. It has not been a priority of ours, it's just something that we're just trying to avoid the DEP issuing a notice violation versus being very proactive. It's just how we went along this one. You know, we can change our philosophy and approach, but that's how we've done it for years, is that this has just been, you know, doing the minimum just to stay in compliance. You know, we know that we're not impacting any other receptors, it's not an
Yeah,
actual.
we're following the DEP's
Yeah,
regulations.
and we're
not that
following
it's
DEP
minimal.
regulations, but we're on the tail end of when things are due, you know, we're not, you know, we're not being aggressive in getting it beforehand.
You're within their guidelines.
The only factor that's changed is where before you had people there part-time, now you have residents living nearby. So I know they also factor in, when you say receptors, how the usage
But the
site.
plume is not very large.
Okay.
It's not off-site.
It's not off-site. It's actually, it extends, slightly towards the rear of the property, towards the Great Swamp, so and we have sampled surface water, so it's not impacting surface water or other, receptors of amphibians or anything. It's a groundwater, and it's contained in the subsurface.
Okay.
And there's no groundwater nothing's being
It's
used.
clay, right, a lot of clay there?
There's a lot of clay in
Yeah,
the
so if
swamp.
it's clay almost acts as a containment of itself.
Mhm. Okay.
So we're good to, have that resolution on?
Good for me.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you, John, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Pete,
All right, good night.
follow up with Carl
I'm
about
going.
the insurance.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't hear about that.
Oh, yeah, you should be able to make that back in the sweet spot.
Definitely is. There is a difference between active remediation and monitored. It's a little bit different, but,
Hopefully it's in the current policy.
well, they're there, we know, we're all know it's.
Okay,
Hi
next
again.
is finance. Debbie submitted her report. Debbie, any highlights from your report that you wanna bring to their attention?
The revenues in current fund have exceeded our expectations. We've received up to 119% of what we anticipated for current fund, and in the sewers, we were at 112%. So it's nice to always have excess revenue come in. Expenditure-wise, we're at 94% expended for current fund and 81% for sewer. So we're going to 2023 with a small reserve of approximately like 900,000 for current fund. So it's a little lower than in past years. But that will impact not this year's surplus, but the following year. Other than that, we have a few resolutions and ordinances that will have to be on the agenda coming into the near future. January 24th, we should put a resolution on for canceling some unexpended balances in our capital. This will free up some funds. It won't directly be applied towards the down payment on the note, but in a roundabout way, it'll free up funds that can then be appropriated to go onto the note. When we're canceling these balances, these balances are on ordinances that are currently bonded, so the funds will be put into a reserve for payment of that debt service, which will free up some more funds in future budgets, so that we can then appropriate the funds for the down payment on the note. So, that'll be the way to handle this, so that our canceling will help us, fund some of this, the $2 million note that we have coming up.
How much is that in aggregate that you're anticipating freeing up from?
It's about 303,000.
Those are from, two ordinances. Both of them had to do with acquisition of property. These are the ones for the other members of the committee I spoke about in November and I think December. It's the acquisition for the Charlie Brown site, 522. Since acquisition is done, that money that's sitting there is able to be canceled. And then the other one was for River Road, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the River Road, also acquisition. And again, since those have been acquired, we're able to cancel that. So that's another 303,000 to go to, essentially, in the way that Debbie described it, go towards reducing how much we actually need to finance of that $2 million.
And then I think we're anticipating 100,000. Have we gotten confirmation on that from Affordable Fair Share Housing?
On the spending plan, you mean?
Yeah.
That is, we're still, no, that's separate, that's,
That could also be.
Yep. that's the 100,000 that we were, looking to amend our spending plan on. So, still gotta hear back from Frank Banish on that one.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any other questions on that? The estoppel period will be ending on the 12th. So once the estoppel period ends, we are free to go out to do the note sale. So we'll just be looking for some further guidance as to when we're gonna proceed with that. Also, we'll need some budget transfers for the reserve budget. There's a few accounts, departments that are gonna need some funds. There's small amounts, just to clean up some bills that they still haven't got into the system yet. And then we'll be looking at our cap bank ordinance coming in the near future, February, prior to the introduction of our budget. And that's all I have.
Okay.
Any questions?
Good report as always, right?
Thank you very
She's-
much.
she's on top of it.
Yeah,
Now I can go home.
thank you very much.
It's been a long day. Okay.
And do
Sorry.
want to just, recognize and let you all know, Debbie is really doing such a terrific job in finance and, everywhere, really.
I'm
Putting
sure.
in long hours, and making sure that the year end is happening and that the start of the year is happening, so, she really is a great employee and we're lucky to have her.
We have our new
Thank
house,
you.
so it'll get better, right?
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Steve.
Bye-bye.
Much appreciated.
See you guys tomorrow.
Which one
Thanks,
do you want
Debbie.
next?
Well, now we can go in order, I guess,
Okay.
since nobody else is here. Clerk?
You got my report, do you have any questions on it?
Pretty straightforward. About as straightforward as it gets.
Lawless cat owners are still not getting their licenses.
Construction and building, were there any questions? I mean, we did talk about some of that earlier, but anything else? No, okay.
Engineering we discussed.
Skip engineering, skip finance, police, we're gonna have an ordinance on no parking on Southern Boulevard. We did discuss that at workshop before. The chief did, check in with the county, they had no objections to it, so the intent is to have that. Peter, if
Amend
you
the
could-
ordinance, just to add that.
Yep, so can you help us out with that one? Can you do that one?
And that's the entirety of Southern Boulevard?
No,
No,
it's just
it's
from,
section-
Down to-
No, no,
Yeah,
no.
he gave us,
No.
he gave us the
No.
treasure.
Just in between,
it's in between like the police station and the nursing home right there.
Yeah, I'll tell you in a sec.
it's a short area.
It's a very, very short area,
But
basically
it stops
directly.
short of the
It's
Chatham
literally just the area in
Okay.
front of
Yeah,
like,
So what's the genesis behind
I
that?
guess maybe with the.
there's a, like, he explained the reasoning.
Yeah, so-
There's a legitimate reason.
Yeah, I mean, a large part of it has to do with trying to preempt because you're gonna have the Arbor Green really coming online
Yeah.
over there, and we don't wanna end up having a situation where there's a lot of parking over there as well. And so it's
If
easier
that's
to
the
do
intent,
before.
Why not
rather than-
extend it, because you've got patrons of the Chatham Club that are regular offenders of that.
I think that's part of it too on that side.
Yeah,
No, you're
It
short of
doesn't
it.
go,
You're
it doesn't
short of
go
it.
over to,
well, offenders what? It's not illegal.
yeah.
Well, it's going to be, well,
I don't think it goes that far.
Well, cause the Chatham Club, that you're pretty much parking for like an hour, it wouldn't be like
overnight.
overnight, all day, I guess it's different type of,
There was
Parking.
concerns about the police vehicles coming in and out of the police station, you
Yeah,
know.
the DPW
and-
Yeah.
And not being able
Yeah.
to see, it's really a pretty limited stretch, I think, from like Arbor Green to the
To-
nursing home with the police
yeah.
stations smack in the middle.
Especially when the police have to come out at high speeds to respond to
Right.
a call.
Yeah.
yeah. I can forward you the original email from the chief if you'd like, though. I'll send that to you. So yeah, so that's that one. Committeeman Lois requested the other ordinance, and in deference or respect, if there's no objections, maybe we leave that for the next workshop.
yeah, I
meeting.
know, the last we were discussing is to ask, legal to make sure it's legal to do that.
So my partner drafted that for his town,
Okay,
and they did what we did with our ordinance with panhandling.
right,
where
okay. So
we-
let's wait until,
There's a second
right,
piece to it, so it's just not trespassing,
Got it.
which there is.
so then let's wait until, Committeeman Lois comes back and we can fully, delve into it out of, respect.
The chief is in
No,
on. Okay.
he's still out of town.
Oh, yeah,
No,
he's
he
definitely
he
out,
was.
he's definitely out now.
Anything else then under police? He did submit his report. The chief is at the FBI National Academy, so everyone's aware. He does have 2 OICs that will be covering for the period that he's there, but if you have any questions on his reports, let me know. Public Works, any question on their report? No, I do want to recognize the Public Works team, as always. I mean, sometimes I note something or someone else notes something, and before I've even had a chance to talk to them about it, it's already been fixed or addressed. For those of you who have not been here in the last week or two, also, you'll notice some office changes as well, and that is a large credit to DPW's manpower and terrific organizational skills and leadership by Rich. They're helping us reorganize a lot of our offices here, our filing, and they are fantastic. We've got a tremendous DPW here.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, they're great. Recreation, Larry provided his report. Any questions there?
Nope.
Okay. Tax collector, there was no report there, but you're aware of the situation. And then tax assessor, there was a report. Am I looking at the wrong agenda?
No, you're right.
No, but the agenda I had a tax appeal, or,
Nope,
Yeah,
not the one I have.
I had the tax appeal.
okay. Yeah, there was supposed to be, oh, it's
We're
under
still
finance.
rejected.
I'm sorry, it's under finance.
Oh, yeah.
Apologies. The tax appeal, so that ties into the tax assessor, but also
Okay.
under finance. So we do need a resolution to authorize a settlement on the tax appeal.
Okay.
If you want to discuss that further, we could go back into executive session on it. But Glenn and Carl both provided copies of their assessment and input on the tax appeal settlement. That's pertaining to over 10 years under appeal for the Subler building, I believe it's called. Subler building
Right
on Southern
on
Boulevard.
Southern Shell
What's
Lake.
on Green Village as you're going?
Yeah,
from
right
Oh, I'm
next
sorry,
to
Green,
Starbucks.
yeah, so.
Right next to Starbucks.
Yeah.
It
just
is,
past Starbucks.
it's a fair settlement. It only gonna cost us about $4,500 out of pocket. If we were to litigate it and go through the whole process, we'd be paying a lot more than that. And, you know, Carl and Glenn and our appraiser did a good job defending it, I think, and really putting the claimant's feet to the fire to make sure that we don't lose money on it. So the
Yeah, I did
recommendation-
have some questions. I
Yeah.
guess I didn't realize this didn't come up. We didn't do this during, is it more appropriate to discuss in executive session?
Depends on your question.
If it's a litigation strategy,
Yeah. Yeah, I think,
Go in
let's
executive.
go into executive. That's all we
Yeah,
have.
it will be brief.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all we have on this. There's no
Well,
action to that.
let's wait until, let's finish.
Yeah, that's it. I think there's
Well,
nothing
what
else.
about
we can-
the administration?
Oh, sorry.
Your own.
Skip my
Yeah.
stuff.
Well,
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Going quick back to finance, there was also the Bergen County Co-op.
Yes, I'll touch that. Sorry. Bergen County Co-op, that's a no-cost cooperative through Bergen County that gives us some options for purchasing. The reason I want to put that on here is because for some vendors, whether it's our website or whether it is for phone systems, technology, that gives us the ability to purchase things through this cooperative at a good rate without having to go out to bid and make the process complicated.
It's already bid through the state, so they've done all that work for you, so it's
Yep,
the
yep,
lowest,
yep.
best price and quality.
Yeah, so I noticed we weren't in that co-op and figured preemptively, let's go on that.
Sounds good.
Typically, they're free to join, there's, no
Might as well
harm in
join and, yeah, got it.
Any questions on that? Okay.
Resolution for gov
Good
deals.
catch. Okay, so, routinely, I think in the past, you guys have done these resolutions for Gov Deals. Gov Deals is an auction site. It's one of the few, auction sites that municipalities are allowed to use. We can't just go on eBay. So, we have Gov Deals. It involves us, involves you passing a resolution to authorize us, the staff, to list things on that website. You'll have that resolution prepared for the next meeting. Right now, what I anticipate are two surplus vehicles, and a bunch of phones that have been sitting in the offices here.
What about the vehicle that's out there?
The
Is that one of
Ford,
those?
the black Ford?
Yeah.
No, that's used. It's actually one of, we do use that one. Yeah, the employees do use that one.
Okay.
That's sort of like a catch-all for some employees.
When Brett does his inspections, he goes, he.
Okay,
uses it.
okay, fair enough, fair
It's
enough.
one of them's a police vehicle, and I think the other one's a DPW vehicle.
Okay.
And then a large amount of Avaya phones that were prior to the NEC phones that Bob Hoffman contracted with.
Mhm.
They've just been sitting in a back office for years now, so I want to get rid of those.
The gov deals resolutions, we usually do a few of them throughout the year. when there's
Right,
surplus
yeah, I've
work
seen
stuff.
Yeah,
And
my
then-
goal is to try and do these quarterly,
Yeah.
so, you'll hear from me about these again.
Good.
And then the resolution with,
The chief,
Yep.
we discussed that in
Discussed last
workshop,
time,
me and executive in
Yeah,
December, I
last-
believe
yep.
it was. So this resolution is to actually authorize the execution of the agreement,
Yeah, and everything in there was stuff we had
what we
already
talked
discussed.
about.
Okay.
Municipal facility, actually, I'll do the telephone system. So I am exploring a new telephone system. The phone system we have now is terrible. The phones are very outdated. They're running analog. We don't, sort of like an analog digital system. They're not even VoIP phones. And they lack a lot of capabilities that most modern phone systems have. We have a hosted server here, a hosted server at police, and then there's an underground line that connects the police server to the DPW server. A lot of problems we pay in terms of maintenance. The costs that we've got for it are pretty high, and anytime we want to make some changes, whether it's an extension, voicemail, reprogramming, we have to contact the reseller, who then bills us this hourly rate to fix them. There's a lot of VoIP systems right now that are a lot easier, don't require all the infrastructure that we have right now, and it's a sort of flat rate cost to have, and the system, the back end to administer and maintain it is very user friendly, so any of us can then make those changes, reset passwords, voicemails, and we get a lot more functionality with it. So if we had to, during the pandemic, shut down, relocate, these phones would just be able to be plugged into any Wi-Fi or phone jack and work. The system we have now does not do that. So
We have fiber coming in here?
pardon?
Like, so what's your, like, throughput to this building?
So
We're in the corner of the township.
yeah, so the phone system is running over a 3 megabit connection. Yeah.
Okay.
And our
And how much-
internet,
What bandwidth do you need?
the system we would be able to run it off of right now. The internet we have for the building is a 50 gig connection, 50 megabit connection, and that one is powering up our computers. That's under a legacy contract right now with Comcast, so the phone system that we'd be going to would probably be gigabit, and would handle our internet, which also has problems, bandwidth problems, and internet connection problems. At the very least, we'd be able to swap service with another Comcast connection that we have under our account. So our pump stations have 100 megabits connection, and they're getting more internet with less usage than we're getting here. So I'm looking at either just do a soft swap or contract with, get some fiber to power everything up
Or
and kind of plan for the future.
That was my
That'd be
question.
great.
So
We are
leverage
getting
off of-
fiber.
Well, that fiber
Yes.
just creates a loop,
Right,
right?
right, right.
All that does is it's just like running Ethernet. I'm just
Right.
giving a
Got
dumbed
it.
down example of like running cabling around the town. You still need to get
Yeah,
internet
get
to
it,
that.
right,
So we would need, my plan is to get fiber internet connection, and that will be what powers our loop.
Got it,
Until then, this recommendation.
Correct.
okay.
But the federal grant money that creates that fiber access, that will come to the door of the municipal building.
Right.
Yes.
So we could.
So we can
leverage
go
off of
from
at
that.
point.
Correct. So our, what's known as like, you'll have an MDF, that's where your main, you're getting your internet, and then that internet goes onto the loop,
Right,
and that's what powers everything else up. So that's the goal.
Okay.
There would need to be at least one place and then a backup, so probably the police and municipal building
Right.
for the internet connections. But phone system, we're running a very old technology here for our phone system, and I want to get that upgraded. So doing some cost comparisons, looking at some systems that are in use, already started talking to some of them, and I think prepared to make a recommendation that should be cost neutral or maybe even save us some money.
fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that people have to take their cell phones outside to have conversations, we have residents calling and needs answers, of course, I mean,
Yeah,
whatever we
and
need to
it's-
do to fix that system.
Yeah, and it's getting
Yeah.
harder with more two-factor authentication type
Yeah.
of things going on, like the state and
Yeah.
federal government, like today, Debbie was up the hill waiting for a text message for two-factor authentication
And then running.
for the IRS to come back and put the code in, and I had to do the same thing.
Yeah,
It's
that's ridiculous.
getting-
But
That-
the loop, that's not gonna solve
that's not
that.
gonna
That's
solve this.
cellular.
No,
Right, but it's,
I've already talked to a vendor about a
Just
repeater.
like an amplifier.
Yeah,
Right.
we're getting an amplifier and repeaters through the building, so.
Yeah, AT&T is slightly better in the building, but not by much.
yeah,
You just plug like an amplifier to one of the buildings.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna,
That thing.
hopefully, it'll work, we've got a product selected and a vendor to do that. So once the purchasing system opens up with our temporary budget in a week, we'll be doing that.
Great.
So for telephone, if you go 100% voice over IP, or we, I don't know, any regulations or laws where you have to have lines up and running if you have a power outage?
So there's no law or regulation on that, but we would still have some backups. There are certain things that are still, this company would take over certain POTS and copper lines, but even POTS and copper lines are being converted over to fiber.
Yeah, well,
and-
they do, like cellular, a lot of people just.
Yeah, the problem is we can't even, cellular is not even that reliable here because even our alarm system kept getting tripped off at the end of the month, end of December, because that's running on a cellular connection, and every time it was losing connection, it would trigger the alarm. So, yeah, a lot of infrastructure work to happen in this building, but we're working on it.
Even when we had POTS lines, they were problematic because I think they were, the copper lines in the ground were corroded.
Yeah, but the power supply for these would be on backup and generator as well. That's the plan.
Okay.
So that's it, and then that dovetails into the next, which is the municipal facilities evaluation. Wanted to start this dialogue. The building here it's a great building with good bones, but it has not received the love and care that it needs. As you heard, we're doing work on the roof. There's HVAC work. There's a lot of things. The lighting isn't the most efficient. The plumbing, all these different things in terms of space as well. Part of what I've been trying to do is consolidate and also reimagine the space that's needed by our employees. For example, space that was used here for the court is no longer really necessary because the court is no longer here. It's part of a shared service agreement. So there's some legacy structures and legacy layout based off of how the municipality used to run. I think there's a reason and need to look to government of the future and how we plan for that. Space isn't needed in the way it used to be. A lot of things are being done online, payments of bills, services, what is really front facing. So I'm proposing that we hire an architect to do a feasibility analysis and needs analysis of our building for our employees, our operation, and also look at, there was a resolution that the governing body passed at the beginning of last year to have a real estate appraiser look at it, but I think before that we need to look at, how much space do we actually need here and how can we locate ourselves here, and then with the rest of it, like the Board of Ed offices and a bunch of rooms that are just holding boxes because people just dumped boxes there, and all the efficient storage systems, really look at these and figure out what's the best use of space for us and then for a prospective tenant or tenants. That could be a revenue generator for us, and also make sure that this big building isn't just sitting dormant when there are other needs. I've already been contacted by a daycare that has toured the facility and is very eager to serve Chatham residents and provide their daycare services. But the building as is not capable of handling that. It would need some work. So whether they would take over.
Needs daycares. I can say that 100%.
Well, they're Chatham daycare, and they say that too.
Yeah,
The
there's
demand is
waiting
there,
lists
and they don't have the space
years
for
long.
it. So that's just one use.
Right,
Whether
right.
it's the whole building, a part of the building that they use, again, that would all come out of this, this feasibility study. And I think it's not just this, but also looking at DPW and police. Police had its issues with their inspection with the state as well in terms of the jail cells. They've got issues with their infrastructure at that building, and the DPW building is decades old. And the longer we kick the can down the road, the more expensive things are, the more regulations that will be in place, and I think we need to also start looking at a new home for the two of them and get that conversation started. Whether it's two separate homes or we look at reconfiguring that lot so there's one big home and that can serve as sort of the backup to, God forbid, something were to happen here, an emergency operations center. One thing I was shocked at to find was our backup servers for here are here, just down the hall in another closet.
Right.
That's not how.
Redundancy.
Yeah, that's not how it's supposed to work. So I would like to go to firms and request proposals for that kind of scope of work to do feasibility and use analysis and start to come up with some concept sketches of what the possibilities are for the two locations. And then we can have more of a conversation as to what the future would look like.
Roughly what percentage of the building is being used right now?
Well, it's
Inefficiently?
Yeah.
The numbers are
That's a hard
different. Yeah.
question.
Efficiently, I would say, if it was running efficiently, I would probably estimate it at about 25%.
Wow.
Yeah.
How big is this building?
This big
It's
huge.
massive.
It's
Bigger than a
huge.
big.
80,000?
Well,
The
and some of
basement,
it's
the
way
gym,
it's
the
designed. I
part-
mean, the gym
Yeah.
is being used, the senior
Yeah.
center
But
is
it's like,
being
like
used.
you have that wall, that ramp
The
that is
ramp,
very
right.
difficult, you know, that's not really usable, so it's very hard to fully give you like a real number. But I mean, you should take a tour, walk all the way down into all
I'll give you a
those
tour sometime.
offices. Right.
Beautiful space.
This room, for
humongous
example, it's only
space.
2 nights a month.
Towns-
Like the Amboy Theater?
Towns would really
It's
kill
huge.
to have this kind of space. Most
Right, it's
municipal
huge.
buildings are struggling to fit and do what they need to do because their buildings were so old
And so small,
and
right.
so small.
This should have been the joint court, not Madison. I mean, you had the building.
Yeah, but Madison's is better
I
looking.
mean, Madison's is beautiful.
Yeah,
Um,
but either way.
Anyway, so I think in committee I'll happily give you a tour. Your jaw will drop
How
when
many
you
empty-
see.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and inefficiently, we're probably using about 50 to 60% of it, meaning like just scattered
We just have
crap
boxes
all
everywhere.
over the place.
Yeah.
And
But because of DPW, we were able to kind of combine it and organize it a little bit better.
yeah. So next week I'll give you a tour of just what's happened recently, and I think you'll see how much better it's been laid out.
Mhm.
And I think there's only more room for improvement if the space architecturally and from a construction perspective was configured differently.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Doesn't sound like a huge expense, relatively speaking, the feasibility study, but but it's in the budget somewhere to.
There is money in the capital budget. There was money in 22 and 21 that Bob had put for municipal building, police, and DPW building improvements and upgrades that were needed. So that money could be used for that. These types of things cost anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 just on the architectural side. So sounds like a big price tag, but that's what it goes for right now. Boonton is it Boonton? They're doing it. Their ranges were from like $9,000 to I think $60,000, and they're much smaller than ours. So just to kind of give you an idea of what it would cost.
So just, when we were looking
Pardon?
at master,
Yeah.
when we were looking at a master plan, looking at the facilities would have been a component, and that was, one of the vendors, the mid-range vendor was $80,000. So. I
For
would
just
hope
that
this
component
would
or
at least-
everything?
For everything.
For the master plan?
For the master plan.
Yeah, they wouldn't be doing the architectural conceptual. I mean, I don't. I'm
Not
just-
in the detail, I understand,
Yeah.
but it definitely was gonna be facilities review, that was a definite part of that, because that's.
I think more for use. Again, I didn't look at the proposal, but I would find it very hard to believe that they would really get into more like them saying, oh, municipal building and, you know, recreation facilities, like the zoning, looking at it. I don't think they would get into the
Yeah.
detail of really how it's laid out or even, you know,
Definitely not.
the volume of use.
Yeah, I get that, and I wasn't
Yeah.
comparing prices, but my point being, if we're gonna spend 50,000, I would like to at least meet that component of the master, you know, that we could just plug that into the facilities.
I don't wanna spend 50.
If we're, that would have to be done by a planner, right? So what I'm talking, you know, the architects are gonna be doing, I think that could inform a planner who is doing that element in the master plan. But I don't think that an architect would be qualified nor looking at the building from that kind of perspective for, you know, what a master plan element would look like. But if you could give me a pointer into who that was, I'll try and dig up that proposal and see, and then I can feed that to the architects. Some architectural firms have planners there as well, and see if that can be incorporated.
Okay.
All right, are we good? Should we, move on to the hearing of citizens?
Make a motion.
Oh, yeah, I'm open up the hearing of citizens. Is there anybody? Anybody online?
I can't, no hands raised.
Alright, so then I will close the hearing of citizens and move on to the executive session. Can I get a motion to go into executive session? Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Troy?
You got it, Peter?
Yes.
You want me to?
Mrs. Ewell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hamilton?
Yeah. Yes.
Mayor Fleece?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay.
I can be on.
I gotta make sure we're shut down.
So is that
Recording
on
stopped.
YouTube?